Hello, my name is Kiran Kumar. I am working as a contract lecturer in DCCP branch at SRRS Government Polytechnic in Rajan Sirsilla district. Subject code is 18CCP204C. Subject code is 18CCP204C. The subject name is Joint Stock Companies. In this, the topic prospectus and procedure for incorporation of a joint stock. Today I am going to explain the topic prospectus and procedure for incorporation of a joint stock company. Procedure for incorporation of a joint stock company. On completion of this class, the student will be understood. The student get an idea about the prospectus and the contents of prospectus and statement in lieu of prospectus and the procedure for incorporation of a joint stock company and the procedure for incorporation of a joint stock company. The procedure for incorporation of a joint stock company. The student will be able to know about the prospectus and the procedure for incorporation of a joint stock company. Procedure for incorporation of a joint stock company. In the last class, I have clearly explained the Memorandum of Association, Articles of Association, and the differences between Memorandum of Association and Articles of Association. Memorandum of Association, Articles of Association, and the differences between this MOA, Memorandum of Association, and AOA, Articles of Association. A Memorandum of Association is a primary document in the process of formation of a joint stock company. The process of formation of a joint stock company. A Memorandum of Association is a primary document in the process of formation of a joint stock company. It contains some clauses. About these classes of Memorandum of Association, I have explained in the last video very clearly. So it contains some classes. Those are the name class, situation class, liability class, objects class, etc. It contains some of the classes. I'm giving you some of the classes. Name class, which I have explained in the last video, that is the name class, situation class, objects class, objects class, objects class, and liability class, and so on. In the name class, it defines the name of the joint stock company, the matter related to the name of the joint stock company. The name of a joint stock company, while selecting or assigning or creating a name to the joint stock company, the promoter has to take care while selecting the name. It should not be same with other existing companies. It should not be matched with the names of the other existing companies. It should not be matched with the names of the other existing companies. Other existing company names, or any government organization name, or any government organization name. And the words private limited and limited, two words, limited and private limited. In case of it is a public limited company, at the end of the name a limited should be added. At the end of the name limited should be added. In case of it is a private limited company, then private limited should be added. Private limited should be added. That is XYZ private limited or XYZ limited. By seeing the name of the company, one can identify whether it is a private company or public limited company. And the situation class defines the registered office of the company. And objectives class, in the objectives class of a memorandum of association, all the objectives of the company should be written. Like that, other classes are also there. These are all classes will be in the memorandum of association preparation, document preparation. This is the primary document needs to be prepared by the promoters and to be submitted to the Registrar of Companies as per the Indian Companies Act 1956. And the second important document needs to be submitted to the Registrar of Companies is Articles of Association. Is Articles of Association. Is Articles of Association. The Articles of Association contains the rules and regulations and procedures. It contains the procedures or rules and regulations for the internal management of the company. It contains the procedures or rules and regulations. It contains the procedures or rules and regulations for the internal management of the company. It contains so many other details like the names of directors and the duties and responsibilities of directors and their remunerations, qualifications of the directors, and so many other details which I have clearly explained in the last video, and so many other details which I have explained in the last video. Here the differences between this MOA and AOA, that is Memorandum of Association and Articles of Association, is the MOA is a primary document and the AOA is a secondary document in continuation with the Memorandum of Association to be submitted to the Registrar of Companies as per the Indian Companies Act. The MOA contains the classes. The matter in the MOA is divided into classes. It means it contains classes. And the AOA contains rules and regulations divided into paragraphs and clearly mentioned. This is about the last class, that is the continuation to this class. And in this class I am going to explain the prospectus and the contents of prospectus and the contents of prospectus and the procedure for incorporation of a joint stock company. Okay, the first one is prospectus. Definition of the prospectus. A prospectus is defined as any prospectus, notice, circulars, advertisement or other document inviting offers from the public for the subscription or purchase of any shares in or debentures of a body corporate. This is the definition of the prospectus. A prospectus is defined as any prospectus, notice, circular, advertisement or other document inviting offers from the public for the subscription or purchase of any share or debenture of a body corporate. A prospectus is a document inviting the public to purchase shares and debentures of the company. In simple terms, a prospectus is nothing but an invitation to the public. A prospectus is an invitation to the public and offering to the public or inviting the public to purchase. A prospectus is a brochure. It is just like in simple terms we can say a prospectus is a brochure or a document or an invitation to the general public offering to purchase shares and debentures of the company. Offering general public to purchase shares and debentures of the company. The public knows about the company when the companies issued prospectus only. The general people knows about the company. Here in a simple term we can say a prospectus is an invitation and offering the people to purchase shares and debentures. The contents in prospectus. The contents in prospectus. Contents of the memorandum. The nature of the business of the company. The names and full address of the company. Particulars of persons who have signed the memorandum. Particulars of persons who have signed the memorandum. Number of types of shares issued. Details regarding the issue of debentures. The rights of different types of shareholders. Particulars of directors, managing directors and their remuneration, powers, etc. Expenses paid or payable before incorporation of company. Expenses paid or payable before incorporation of a company. These are the contents are available in prospectus. Contents of the memorandum. It contains the matter which is available in the memorandum of association. The nature of the business of the company. The nature of the business of the company. What is the business the promoters are going to be do? What is the nature of the business? The name and full address of the company. The company's name and the registered office address. The company name and registered office address. That is the name and full address of the company. Particulars of persons who have signed the memorandum. Particulars of persons who have signed the memorandum. So after preparation of this memorandum of association, all the members have to sign. All the promoters have to sign, or all the directors have to sign on the memorandum of association. So in this prospectus it contains the persons, it contains the details of the persons who have signed the memorandum. Number of types of shares issued. It contains the information like the number of types of shares issued. How many number of types of shares issued? There are different types of shares, that is equity shares, preference shares, and another type of getting finance from the public is debentures. I will explain very clear about these types of shares in the coming classes. Here the number of types of shares issued is mentioned in the prospectus. Details regarding the issue of debentures. Another kind of getting finance from the public is debentures. Other than shares is debentures. So details regarding the issue of debentures is also included in the prospectus. Here the prospectus is the purpose to issue is to issue. It is the intention of the promoters to offer to the general public to purchase shares and debentures. Shares and debentures. So here in the prospectus, number of types of shares issued, details regarding the issue of debentures also mentioned. The rights of debentures, different types of shareholders is also mentioned. The rights of different types of shareholders. Here there are different types of shares are there. The general shares are equity shares. It's the normal shares or ordinary shares. And another type of share is preference shares. And another, the promoters will have some shares in the company. Those shares are called as deferred shares. And each and every shareholder have a right in the company. Each and every shareholder have a right in the company. That rights and responsibilities, there is some responsibilities also there to the shareholders, because we already know, in general anybody knows, the shareholder invests the capital in the joint stock companies. So the shareholders are called as the owners of the company. In general everybody knows. Here the rights of shareholders, that is different types of shareholders, as I told you clearly, equity shares, preference shares, and different kinds of debentures are there. Number of types of debentures are there. So the rights and responsibilities of these kind of shareholders or debenture holders, shareholders and debenture holders are mentioned, clearly mentioned in the prospectus. Then particulars of directors, managing directors and their remuneration, powers, etc. Particulars of directors, managing directors and their powers, remuneration, etc. Here in the prospectus, it is very clearly mentioned the number of directors, of the joint stock company, the persons who have signed on the Memorandum of Association may be usually called as directors of the company. Here the number of directors and the names of the directors and their qualifications of the directors are mentioned in the articles of association. The same details, whatever the details available in the articles of association, those details are clearly mentioned in the prospectus also, because these details are to be kept in front of the people, those who are interested to invest their money in the joint stock company by purchasing either shares or debentures. By purchasing either shares or debentures. Here the particulars of directors, that is names of the directors, qualifications of the directors, and if there is any share capital, that also mentioned. And in the director, some of them are elected as managing directors. So the details of the managing directors are also mentioned in the prospectus, and their remunerations, the amount of remuneration, the amount is paid to the managing directors, and powers of the directors. Powers, that is roles and responsibilities. Powers is nothing but roles and responsibilities of the directors. Roles and responsibilities of the directors. is clearly mentioned in the roles and responsibilities of the directors is clearly mentioned in the prospectus. Clearly mentioned in the prospectus. And one more important point is expenses paid are payable before incorporation of company. Expenses paid are payable before incorporation of a company. Expenses paid are payable before incorporation of a company. The amount which the directors or the promoters have already paid before incorporation of a company. The promoters, the persons who establish a joint stock company are called as promoters or the directors of the company. So before this incorporation process, there is some expenses. They have some expenses. That expenses or the amount payable is mentioned before incorporation of the company is mentioned in the prospectus. The next, particulars regarding purchase of any asset for the company. Particulars regarding purchase of any asset for the company. Particulars regarding purchase of any asset. So in the prospectus, it is clearly mentioned the assets which have already purchased, which they have already purchased. That details are clearly mentioned. That details are clearly mentioned in the prospectus. The details are clearly mentioned in the prospectus. The amount of minimum subscription to be received before allotment of shares. The amount of minimum subscription to be received before allotment of shares. The number of days from the date of issue of prospectus to the date of allotment. Reserve fund and its utilization. Reserve fund and its utilization. Total particulars of underwriters. Total particulars of underwriters. The names and addresses of auditors, bankers, solicitors, etc. The names and addresses of auditors, bankers, solicitors, etc. Here, the amount of minimum subscription to be received before allotment of shares is clearly mentioned in the prospectus. Reserve fund and its utilization. The amount of reserve fund and the utilization of this reserve fund. The amount of reserve fund and the utilization of the reserve fund is clearly mentioned. The total particulars of underwriters. The total particulars of underwriters are also mentioned. The names and addresses of auditors, bankers, solicitors, etc. is clearly mentioned in the prospectus. Okay. So before purchasing of any asset is clearly mentioned, and the amount of minimum subscription to be received before allotment of shares, the reserve funds, and the names and addresses of auditors and the particulars of underwriters. And there is another concept called statement in lieu of prospectus. There is another concept called statement in lieu of prospectus. There is another concept, that is statement in lieu of prospectus. It is a document filed with the Register of Companies, ROC. In short form, it is ROC. It is a document filed with the Registrar of Companies ROC when the company has not issued prospectus to the public for inviting them to subscribe for shares. Okay, the statement in lieu of prospectus is similar like a prospectus. A statement in lieu of prospectus is similar like a prospectus when the company has not issued prospectus to the public for inviting them to subscribe for shares. Then that companies issue statement in lieu of prospectus. Statement in lieu of prospectus. It is similar to a prospectus. It is similar to a prospectus. Statement in lieu of prospectus contains. Statement in lieu of prospectus. It contains the number and types of shares. The number and types of shares. Rights of the shareholders. The number and types of shares. The rights of shareholders. It should be dated and signed by all directors. It should be dated and signed by all directors. Particulars regarding directors, etc. Particulars regarding directors, etc. Expenses paid or payable before incorporation. Details of contracts relating to purchase of property and bank account details. Here, similar to a prospectus, there is another one, that is statement in lieu of prospectus. Similar to a prospectus, there is another one, that is statement in lieu of prospectus. It is a document filed with the Registrar of Companies. It is a document filed with the Registrar of Companies, in short form ROC. Registrar of Companies short form is ROC. When the company has not issued prospectus to the public, when some companies, or when the company not issued a prospectus to the public for inviting them to subscribe for shares, for inviting them to subscribe for shares, it is similar to a prospectus. The statement in lieu of prospectus is similar to a prospectus. Statement in lieu of prospectus is similar to a prospectus. The statement in lieu of prospectus is similar to a prospectus. It contains almost the same details which are available in the prospectus. The headings which are in the prospectus, which need to be mentioned in the prospectus, is also same in the statement in lieu of prospectus. The number and types of shares. The number and types of shares. Rights of the shareholders. The number and types of shares. Rights of the shareholders. It should be dated and signed by all directors. It should be dated and signed by all directors. Particulars regarding directors, etc. Particulars regarding directors, etc. Expenses paid or payable before incorporation. There will be some expenditure in regarding to purchase of assets, or some of the expenditure for the incurred to the promoters. That expenses are mentioned in the prospectus, like similar in statement in lieu of prospectus. Details of contracts relating to purchase of property. Any kind of property that they are going to use in the business, they will make an agreement to the persons that details are clearly mentioned in this statement in lieu of prospectus. The details are clearly mentioned in this statement in lieu of prospectus. And bank account details, that is the bank name, account number, bank name, account number, and the initial amount details, that details are clearly mentioned in the statement in lieu of prospectus. And legal advisors, legal advisors, legal advisors, legal advisors, legal advisors. Some of the legal advisors are appointed to the companies to see the legal problems, to see the legal formalities or legal problems. And name of the auditors, name of the auditors, bankers, comma, legal advisors, etc. Names of auditors, comma, bankers, comma, legal advisors, etc. It should be filed with the registrar at least 3 days before the allotment of shares. It should be the statement in lieu of prospectus. The statement in lieu of prospectus should be filed. The statement in lieu of prospectus should be filed before 3 days before the allotment of shares. Giving false statements is punishable under the Companies Act. Giving false statements is punishable under the Companies Act. Giving false statements is punishable under the Companies Act. So these details are available in statement in lieu of prospectus. It is similar like a prospectus. It is similar like a prospectus. Some companies has not issued this prospectus. Those companies will issue a statement in lieu of prospectus, similar to a prospectus, and it contains so many details. The prospectus contains so many details like memorandum of details, the details which are available in the memorandum of association, and the details which are available in the articles of association, along with other common details which needs to be known to the general public to purchase or to invest their amounts in the form of shares or debentures in the companies, the joint stock companies. And in the statement in lieu of prospectus is like similar to a prospectus. A statement in lieu of prospectus is similar like a prospectus. Almost all the details which have in the prospectus are similar in a statement in lieu of prospectus. It contains the number of directors, names of the directors, roles and responsibilities of the directors, different types of shares and the rights of shareholders, and the auditors, legal advisors, and the auditors. And it should be signed by all the directors. It should be signed by all the directors. and the expenditure incurred before incorporation of joint stock companies or a company is also clearly mentioned is also clearly mentioned in the prospectus, as well as as well as statement in lieu of prospectus as well as statement in lieu of prospectus as well as statement in lieu of prospectus. And it should be filed it should be filed with the registrar of companies, and it should be filed with the registrar of companies at least 3 days before the allotment of shares, and it should be filed with the registrar of companies it should be filed with the registrar of companies at least 3 days before the allotment of shares 3 days before the allotment of shares. Here one important point is giving a false information, giving wrong information, or mentioning the wrong information either in memorandum of association or in articles of association or in a prospectus is punishable is punishable. The people who mentioned, who submitted the documents in the process of incorporation of a joint stock company, while submitting this memorandum of association or articles of association, any information is wrong, the persons who submitted this will be punishable as per the Indian Companies Act. As per the Indian Companies Act. As per the Indian Companies Act. In the next class, I am going to explain. The features of prospectus and the procedure for the incorporation of a joint stock company. The features of prospectus and the incorporation of a joint stock company. Here in this class I have clearly explained what is a prospectus, what are the contents of a prospectus, what is a prospectus and what are the contents of prospectus, and important is a statement in lieu of prospectus. Here in this class, in today's class or in this session, I have clearly explained what is a prospectus. The last video I have clearly explained what is a memorandum of association and articles of association and the differences between those two, memorandum of association and articles of association, right? So, and in this class I have clearly explained that is in continuation of the last class, in continuation of the last video session or the last session, this class I have clearly explained the prospectus, that is the definition of the prospectus, and contents in the prospectus, and statement in lieu of prospectus. So here we have to remember the important points is I will give you a summary on this class. The important points are prospectus and contents of the prospectus and statement in lieu of prospectus. A prospectus is an invitation to the general public offering to purchase shares and debentures. It is nothing but giving information about the company to the public in the form of prospectus or a brochure and asking them to invest their amounts in the company in the form of shares or debentures depending on their interest. And while issuing a prospectus, there are so many details are available in the prospectus that are placed before to the general public, common public, to invest the amount in the form of shares or debentures. To invest the amount in the form of shares or debentures. It contains the number of shares, the types of shares, the names of the directors, their remunerations and the duties or powers of the directors, qualifications, the registered office, address, bank details, legal advisors and underwriters, details of underwriters, and the expenses paid before the incorporation of a joint stock company. The expenses paid before the incorporation of a joint stock company. Paid before the incorporation of a joint stock company. And there is another concept, that is statement in lieu of prospectus, which is similar like a prospectus. The company that has not issued a prospectus may issue a statement in lieu of prospectus. Almost the details which are available in the prospectus are available in the statement in lieu of prospectus. That is names of directors, shareholders, capital, bank details, directors' qualifications, legal advisors, and so on. As per the Indian Companies Act, if they produce any wrong information, fraudulent information, misproper information to the registrar of companies, is punishable. This is about today's session, and in the tomorrow's or in the next video class I will explain the features of prospectus and complete procedure for the incorporation of a joint stock company and the complete procedure for the incorporation of a joint stock company. The features of, that is in continuation of this prospectus, that is features of prospectus. What are the features of the prospectus and complete procedure, the complete step by step procedure for the incorporation of a joint stock company, for the incorporation of a joint stock company. That is a step by step procedure. So this is about today's class. Okay, thank you.